to the Cover 3 show. And now, here's your hosts, Shay, Mike, and Mitch. Only on WSJU Radio.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Cover 3 here on WSJU. Of course, we got our full panel and tandem of characters. We've got Shay Omanara, James Mitchell, Mike Rosillo with you, as well as Atticus George at our social media desk. And James made the news just to start off, and housekeeping thing right off the bat. We'll be changing our time, actually, from Fridays now to Wednesday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. So we'll be in that morning time slot. We'll be part of your commute right on the TuneIn app and also in the Marillac cafeteria for you guys. But that's done with. Let's now focus on the show. Full slate of things we're going to discuss today. Yesterday was St. John's Basketball Media Day. We're going to have Kieran Lynch, the editor-in-chief of The Torch. He'll be coming on with us around 1:40 later today. We'll also have Steve Inman, who is part of WSJU Sports. He'll be on the show just after us on those Wednesday mornings. He's with John Perez. Their show just runs about an hour after hour. So he'll be coming in to talk some MLB playoffs. Yep. The ALCS and NLCS are finally shaping up. We'll talk about that.
Now, should we talk to him about the 0-6 Giants, or is that a hush-hush?
Yeah, he's a Giants fan. I think he's actually the perfect person to ask something about that. And also, too, I think that's a perfect segue, James, into our first topic. The Giants played last night, and they lost to the Bears 27-21. Eli Manning, as you mentioned in the news, threw his 15th interception, which matches last year's high for him. And you look at this Giants now at 0-6. This hasn't happened to them in 37 years, and it's just bizarre. And how did they get off the schneid? What were your reactions to the game last night, guys?
I think I was more astounded as the fact that they went 0-5 against the Eagles. I figured that they would lose against the Bears, but just 0-6, that's a terrible, terrible record to come back from. I mean, people are questioning if they should, I saw ESPN polls asking if they should just tank the rest of the season for a higher draft pick. I disagree with that. I don't like throwing games or anything like that. But, it's hard for them. I mean, the thing is, I guess the one positive you can take is that the NFC East is weak. Who's leading it? The Cowboys?
I think it's the Eagles, actually.
It's the Cowboys and Eagles.
Okay, and what are they? What are they, 2-3 right now?
Yeah, it's around that mark.
So they could try and make a run, but they have to win each and every divisional game. So it'll be hard for them, especially since they already played the Eagles once and they played the Cowboys once, and they lost both games, obviously. But it's going to be hard for them to come back from this 0-6 hole that they dug themselves in. So we'll see. Only the future can tell us what's going to happen.
They've become a punching bag to other teams. I was reading this on ESPN that they're the first team in NFL history to allow 25-plus points and 3-plus turnovers in each of the first 6 games. The problem doesn't just start with Eli Manning. It's their offensive line, the defense, which has been horrible the whole season, especially the corners. But if we just get back to Eli Manning, watching the game yesterday, he played like a rookie. The interceptions he threw, they were inexcusable. He was staring down one receiver, then threw it on the interception to one of the cornerbacks.
Yeah, the Bears' defense had 3 interceptions yesterday. Of course, I was facing them in fantasy, so that kind of stunk. But, they were driving down at the end of the game, right?
Yeah, he was staring down one receiver. He threw it to Tim Jennings. He
had that pick 6 on the second drive of the game.
Yeah. And then the last interception he threw, he nearly overthrew his tight end, but that was a throw that he should have made. Yeah. I mean, the tight end got his fingers on it, but it was still overthrown. He's not playing with confidence right now. He looks like a completely different quarterback.
Call in with your thoughts about the Giants' horrific start at 718-990-3SJU. That's 718-990-3758. Or you can tweet at us at Cover3. WSJU on the Twitter. Atticus is waiting for your response. If you tweet at us, we'll mention your thoughts on the air and we'll talk about them.
Shay, you made a good point, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. When I was watching the Giants last night, it seemed like they were moving the ball early. They were in the game, essentially, but it was the turnovers late. And Manning, of course, had the 2 interceptions to start those drives. You mentioned before, Jennings, he had the pick 6 on that return for thing was like around 48 yards. But there were also some bright spots, and I think this was the best game they've played. It's hard to find like a moral victory in all this when your quarterback is throwing this many picks, and you're going to stay with him, of course. I think he's pressing. But you saw, too, I mean, like Brandon Jacobs.
He had the best game in a few years. Like, he looked like the old Brandon Jacobs. The problem is not their skill players. It's their interior, their offensive line.
Yeah, they're losing everything in the trenches.
Yeah, and Eli Manning is becoming a different quarterback because he always thinks he's getting pressured. So he does like quick picks, quick interceptions. He second guesses himself. For a quarterback who stayed in the NFL as long as he had, he shouldn't be doing mistakes like that.
Yeah, and David Wilson was out yesterday with a neck injury. I think officially he's out for 3 weeks, but possibly it could be a season-ending injury if he gets surgery or whatever. So Brandon Jacobs, it was good to see him back to his old form yesterday, but I mean, are you guys expecting him to keep that up? I mean,
I don't
exactly.
expect him to.
I don't expect him.
And also, you think, I mean, now they're going to be lean at the running back position. Darrell Scott, he has a hamstring injury. I was checking this morning, and then you mentioned David Wilson. He's going to be out, of course, with the neck thing.
Yeah.
And you're leaning on Brandon Jacobs, who's making a second stint with the Giants. I'm not sure. I mean, it's great that he had that, the Giants' first 100-yard rushing game. But I'm looking over at Atticus. I want to see your thoughts, Atticus. What were your thoughts on the Giants to pick your mind a little bit? And is Jacobs? I don't think Jacobs is a reliable source to go in your ground and pound game.
I certainly don't think that Brandon Jacobs is a reliable source. He just hasn't proven it over the last couple of years, but it certainly was a bright spot for the Giants. I mean, they were driving at the end of the game there. They had a chance to come back. Eli Manning just overthrew an open receiver, and it was picked. It was an unfortunate loss for them. If they would have gone down, scored a touchdown, kicked the extra point, they would have been up one, had a great chance to win. They looked good. I mean, not as good as other teams for sure. Not as good as the top tier, but they didn't look 0-6 bad, and that's certainly a bright spot for Giants. Yeah,
it's kind of like I think I was watching NFL Network too, and they were explaining. It was Willie McGinnis. He said, at this point, the playoffs have to be out of your mind. You have to think of it now in a way you dissect it on a micro level. Just think about doing your job play by play and focus on winning one game at a time and climbing your way out.
Yeah.
And if Brandon Jacobs can be serviceable with the 106 yards and 2 touchdowns he had last night and at least contribute to this team, I think they begin to crawl their way out, and then you start seeing, I think positivity, like they say in baseball. Different sports, but we hear sports a lot that it's infectious. Confidence is infectious. It kind of spreads to everybody. And when you're in a rut like this, getting that first win is always the hardest. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, confidence is key. That's in every sport. And, if Eli Manning's confident, he's going to make confident throws, and he's going to, stand in the pocket and make those throws that he needs to make. But right now, he's just not confident. He's not confident that he's going to be on his feet the whole time. So, he's making these quick throws, as Shea said, and he's getting picked.
What about Ruben Randall? Ruben Randall had a pretty good game last night. He's one of those receivers who was low on the totem pole that needed to step up, and I think he did that in a big way with around 75 yards receiving.
Yeah, he also had a big game against the Eagles the other day, too, on Sunday. So he's a nice number 3 receiver. I'm thinking, because it's Hakeem Nicks' free agency year, I don't see them re-signing him personally.
I don't see him at all either.
So I think next year he's going to be a number 2 receiver, and, it's not a bad choice.
But speaking of Eli again, you think we could be in a season where Peyton Manning will break the touchdown record and Eli Manning will break the interception record, which is actually held by his brother, by the way.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, 28 interceptions his rookie year.
What was his rookie year?
Peyton Manning's rookie year.
Yeah, look at that. Well, that'd be a nice little fun thing. Maybe not at the Thanksgiving table, but.
Do you guys see any chance of the Giants making the playoffs? I mean, we look at their division. They got Dallas ahead of them 2-3, Philly ahead of them 2-3, and the Redskins at 1-3. I mean, they're only at 0-6. They're 2 games back.
They have as much of a chance of me making the playoffs with my team.
You can.
So I think Shea answered that for all of us with a no.
Let me look at the schedule that they have coming up. The following matchup for them will be at MetLife. They're going to be playing the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to be on the road in Philly. They're going to be at home against Oakland, play Green Bay at home, play Dallas at home. So that's 3 games. I think they can beat Oakland.
I think
Green Bay, I don't think they got. Dallas, I really think that they're going to show how good they are when it comes to this weekend, when they play the Redskins, a team that Tony Romo really hasn't had a good, career against turnover-wise. We're going to see how good they are, and if the Cowboys are the team that they were in Denver, can the defense show up, or tying back into the Giants? I think a lot of those wins kind of depend on how they stack up in these coming games.
Yeah, speaking of Oakland, they're 2-3. I don't know if Oakland seems like a definite win.
I think out of those teams that you just rattled off, I think their best bet is against the Vikings.
Yeah,
personally,
I agree.
Because the Vikings right now, they don't have a quarterback. That nobody's really sure who's going to be starting. Not this week, because I believe it's Castle starting this week, or Ponder, one of those two.
But then again, they got Adrian Peterson, and I doubt the Giants or any team, matter of fact, can stop Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, well, I mean, but if I was to pick one team, I'd go them beating the Vikings, and that's about it.
What is a more likely chance of them becoming 0-16 or them making the playoffs?
I don't know.
Making the playoffs.
I think making the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to 0-16. That's outrageous. They're not worse than teams we've seen in the past.
They're not as bad as the Lions a few years ago.
They're not. It's just that they just once they have the lead, they always give it up.
Yeah, which is a problem.
Like you said, it's a confidence issue.
Yeah.
So just trying to scratch hard for that first win. They did it against the Cowboys.
I don't think that we can blame this all on Eli Manning though. When you look at their when you look at their defense, they've allowed 206 points this year. I think it is. 209. They have allowed by far the most points by any other team in the league right now. Their point differential is in the triple digits. It's negative 106. It's outrageous. Their defense needs to step up. And I know it's tough with injuries, but they got to do something.
And it's pretty hard to throw the football when you're always on your back all the time.
I mean, everyone's picking on Eli Manning because, he is the Super Bowl MVP. He is the face of Dunkin' Donuts. He's the face of the franchise. But like Atticus said, it is a lot of the defense. I don't see them getting after the quarterback as much as I've seen them in past years. So, they're a welcome mat, especially for passers because they're, probably 31st, 32nd in the league in passing.
I feel Tom Coughlin's job's in question, though.
That guy's job is always in question, but especially this year.
Yeah, I think it's definitely for Tom Coughlin's in question too. If there was any way to salvage this, I don't know if do you think he's lost the team? Does this have to do with the coaching staff? Because you can have a bad manager and a solid team that just gets the wins and it kind of covers up the blemishes and the things that are wrong with the team. But if people genuinely feel, and I kind of felt about this with the situation with Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. I felt Cincinnati was a toxic place to play. It seemed like there was no real compliance or obedience or just a way to run a professional organization out of Cincinnati and see what's happened. And is that a credit to Marvin Lewis? I think it's a collective vision for the team that they've gone away from being perceived as thugs and being criminals to now they've got a pretty good young defense.
Yeah.
And they've got Andy Dalton and as well as Ben Jarvis Greenhouse who run a solid offense. Not to mention Green off the out wide. But back to what's happening here. In the case like Marlon Lewis, his message clearly spoke loud enough to management that even though they weren't winning, that they were willing to keep him around. Do you think the Giants, remember, Marvin Lewis hasn't won a Super Bowl championship as a head coach.
He's been there a while, though.
Has Tom Coughlin earned that right that after a losing season, even in New York, after 2 Super Bowl championships, that he can have a losing season like this and still come back and keep his job?
See, in my opinion, I think before the general manager and ownership group of the Giants, before they fire Coughlin, they'll fire his coordinators first. And then see, maybe like after this year, they'll fire Perry Fewell because that defense is doing awful. And so we'll see. And maybe the offensive coordinator, I'm forgetting the name. And then maybe at the start of next season, if they start out, 1-5, 0-6, 0-5, whatever, then they might pull the trigger on the Coughlin firing button.
Well, what's funny when we were talking about Tom Coughlin being on the hot seat last few seasons, that was the year he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the thing about Tom Coughlin is you don't know what to expect every season with him. But yeah, with a coach who's been there as long as he has, there's a point where players will just probably get tired of listening to the same voice. They probably heard everything before, and they need like a different